Morning.
Morning.
Hey.
Morning.
All right,
I'll
give
let
me a
you know that
second.
there were
Just
four.
jumped off of one Zoom, and I got to get my coffee for this Zoom. So let's just all hold on for one moment. Oh my goodness! Shut the door. 1 sec.
It's Friday.
We're eavesdropping, Megan.
Mayor, this is Dee. I just let you know that I've had 4 emails from Jason Wynn, Emily Shanka, Pam Edmondson, and Faye. They're not going to be able to participate today.
Slackers, all of them. They don't have COVID, do they?
Well, Jason, his email kind of sounded like, well, his dad is in the hospital. He's having a 9 o'clock Zoom meeting with him. And I couldn't really tell from the email whether his dad had COVID or if Jason has COVID. But so he's got some issues going on there.
I will refrain from making smart-ass comments. Okay, that sounds terrible. I hope everything's all right.
Yeah, me too.
Well, cool. We don't have like any, I think, groundbreaking stuff on this call. I think we're just kind of following up on some of the stuff we were working on. So we'll forward them the minutes, obviously, and they can follow up if they have any questions. So we'll give it about a minute for the late folks, but everyone doing okay? Kara, are you out in front of the Keeper of the Plains? You going on a walk this morning?
What?
You going on a walk this morning and just stopped and doing the selfie?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, got the stick and everything. It's all set up.
You look like you're in a video game.
I do kind of with my arm like glitching out over here.
Yeah.
Like going
You
off.
definitely look like that movie like Tron where you got like sucked in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you're fighting for your life. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. So we wish you luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amber, how are you?
Doing fine.
You good?
Just living the dream at
You look
work.
relaxed? Living the dream, right? That's what I'm doing.
That's right. That's
I'll be
right.
mayor. It'll be really easy. You just have to navigate through Century 2.
I know, right? We look at ourselves. Why do we want to do this again?
Right, and it's like,
Yeah.
hey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta
and-
commend you on your share for providing drinks and stuff. That was in my book, and I really like that.
Yeah, it was I mean, what's interesting is like people who don't like me think that like, oh, look, he's super planned out and they just have this strategy to fool everyone. And I was like literally buying like the most boring fireworks ever because being mayor means that you have to buy fireworks in the city. And then also my kids are so little, like it's just the fountain stuff, right? Like they don't like the big noise. And I'm just like, man, it's hot. I got to get home to my own anti-protest. I bet it's going to be hot for them. Maybe I should get them some drinks while I'm out. Like, so really just kind of off the cuff and got it set up. And apparently, it was a bit of a hit. And also the goal, like my wife's really good at being a good person, right? Like, so she wrote the message on the sign. I thought the sign would be a good idea. And it just set that tone where, welcome. And I'm happy to talk with people who disagree with me. And just kind of make sure we're all in this together. So I think that it set more of a positive tone because it's difficult. No one wants a mask order. Like no one's happy about what's going on right now. Like not at all. Like, I joke because I get these emails where people are like, look, you're trying to, yeah. My mom, God bless her, she made me this one.
Oh.
I watched it yesterday and it smells like amazing. I might watch it.
I have lots. I gotta have options.
Here, you lead it in because you want to see that?
That is great.
It's not bad, right?
I love him.
Not bad. Like I'm a ninja.
I only have I have this in like different colors. I need
Yeah.
one for outside of work.
Well, if you know anything
I
about
got-
Mortal Kombat, I can't read it.
I know it's what my husband said too.
What is it? What
So
is
I've got
Dress for success.
Dress for Success. Oh, gee. Look at that one. That's Wichita as it gets, man.
Oh, yeah.
You got
I
the-
like it.
He's got the shocker. He has the flag.
Man, he went
So
all
I've got-
creative.
So I'm originally from St. Louis, so I've got St. Louis. I've got Wichita State, my alma mater. I've got,
It's a lot of
of course, Wichita. I've got my high school mascot.
Oh, man.
Awesome.
I'm okay with everything except for the Cardinals logo.
I got my wife's birthday on this.
Yeah.
Anniversary. Got everything. Yeah.
So,
I got my AOL screen name. No one's happy about this, right? Like I get these emails, God bless them, and they're like, "You're a Democrat who just wants to have power over people, and that's why you want these masks." And I'm like, actually, Democrats, like our biggest thing is we like to, have a budget to work with, and this thing has just like destroyed our budget. So it's like, no, actually, I really like hosting really cool events downtown. I'd much rather have Riverfest and not be the first mayor in decades to not have a big public 4th of July event. Like there's like a lot of like things we went into that we thought we were gonna have like this incredible summer, 150-year birthday for Wichita. And then like we had to cancel everything, and everyone's like, "You did this because you want to." It was like, no. Let me tell you what. I don't like this like extra like COVID-19 pounds that I got on me right now. Like I don't like my kids looking at old videos on my phone about when the good old days when we went to the zoo, and now like you really can't. Like it's just an awful situation for everyone. But the reality is like and I'm starting off, I guess, because I was going to talk to you guys about the mask order as kind of the first item, even though I don't know if it's on the new agenda or not, but it's probably the newest thing that's happened since. I'm on a private call with the hospitals every Monday, where we get to really kind of jump into detail on what's going on. And our numbers of hospitalizations, which is really the variable I look at, are equivalent or similar to what they were before the shutdown. And hopefully they're not, hopefully they go down. Like hopefully it doesn't stay that way. But that variable to me, because we have these kind of this argument of like, we're up on testing, so we're going to have more positive tests. And I think that, all right, there's some logic to that. Like I think I've used that line before. But when you actually look at testing recently, they've actually pretty much stayed relatively stable. And we've still seen an increase. Plus, the increase doesn't actually seem to correlate with the amount of testing. I think nationally, testing went up 5%, while COVID cases went up over 30%. And locally, it's similar. Like we're not seeing that correlation of numbers where more testing by this percentage equals more cases. So the really unconventional truth, I guess, unfortunate truth is that COVID's jumping right now, and the last thing we can do, and one of the things that you guys have taught me on this council, is that like we cannot head towards another shutdown, right? Like that's traumatic. That is just too much, and I'm terrified that if the numbers of COVID cases are matching shutdown numbers, we might have lost some of that progress, if not all of it. And then, so right now, I don't know if you guys followed it. The county commission the governor had her order put in place before July 4th. It was critical we did this before July 4th because and like I said, I'm on a call, so I think I'm privileged to have some of this info that other folks might not. But most public gatherings within our culture, like Mother's Day, let's say, we have seen like 2 to 3 weeks later a spike. And we can link it back to like Easter. Like we can link it back to days when we traditionally meet and gather. And 4th of July is one of them. So one of the, I think, critical parts of her order was to have people wear masks during 4th of July. And then a county called an emergency meeting to stop that. And they said, we strongly recommend. Sadly, free market principles, when you strongly recommend something, is if someone has the discipline to actually implement, and then someone doesn't, like, oh, you don't want to wear a mask, you can come to my business. And, then now the person who's requiring masks are now not requiring masks. Like it just hasn't been working. We've seen these numbers spike in spite of it. And it also puts a partisan spin on it, where now a lot of what I'm facing online and such is usually misinformation that is motivated, I think, by partisanship. And just to put that in context, I'm not going to talk too much about this, the same part of our brain that processes religion also is the same part that processes partisan views, which means that like some of these are very strong, they're values based, right? So it's very tough to be like, actually, this is the data, this is why we did this, to some folks who just, they've already bought this as a partisan issue instead of a public health issue. So we're getting pushed back on that, which is fine. So Thursday, they said that we're not going to have any restrictions enforced. And then, and those were the elected folks over in the county. And then Friday, I called an emergency meeting, ruined everyone's weekend, by the way, and heard all about it. Like no one is happy at all with me. Really didn't know what was going to happen. I came in, you guys know I don't have a executive assistant who can kind of work on these projects or community outreach projects with me. So I came in and we had no medical doctors line up. I wanted or asked for the county doctors to come in and talk to us, and they weren't able to do that. I text messaged a few friends, and we got this one doctor who's interested in talking. She spoke to the county before, and she said, well, I could get some other medical folks on the line if you want. And we had about 13 medical folks on the line who were unanimous in their testimony that, and they had different specializations and different ways to talk about this, but hey, we need the mandate and we need it now. And they did a very good job, I think, talking about the new science where, old science was masks make you touch your face more, they're not that good. And they've actually had a mountain of other evidence that shows like, no, we actually do need masks. And they talk about droplets versus like just aerosol type. People who wear masks say like, well, I can still get sawdust inside my mask, so I can still get a virus. Like, right, but it's not about like an aerosol type virus, it's about droplets. And anyways, they really addressed that well. I don't know if any of you actually suffered through that like meeting or saw any of it.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, like, and I got to, I was aggressive, and I apologize for anyone who sometimes I'm getting, by the way, this is funny too, and I'm just venting to you guys because like now like we're friends. Where like I'm the weakest mayor in America for a city this size. And what I mean by that is like we're a weak mayor system where our city manager is either the strongest or second strongest city manager as far as like his powers in the whole country for a city our size. And now, so like anything I do, I have to like actually get a vote for it, right? Like my power is like I can call a meeting, I can force a vote on stuff. That's, and you can vote against it. And so like that's the process we went through. And I'm still like, you're a tyrant. Like people are still like, you are a tyrant and a dictator. And it's like, guys, like I'm literally like the lowest like dictatorship power type stuff like any mayor could have. I have no executive authority like at all. So anyways, so even like appointing boards like this, like I have to get a vote on them. So, but short story long, we got it through, but people are very upset. So I want to talk about that. And it was like I said, I wouldn't say aggressive, but definitely to the point, like it was urgent. Like we couldn't wait till Tuesday, in my opinion. The medical professionals definitely made that clear. So we got it done. And I didn't go in there knowing we were going to have the votes for it. I just knew we had to try. So the goal of it, in case you're pretty much for small business owners or the folks that might be in your circles, it's wear a mask. It's common sense to an extent, right? Like if there's any such thing. If you can't wear a mask because you're under 5 years old or you are have a medical reason, don't wear a mask, right? Like you don't have to wear a mask if you can't wear a mask, pretty much. Like there's legal exceptions. Don't get too into the weeds. If you can't do it because you have a disability or a medical condition or a medical reason, then just you don't have to. Amber, are you talking? I see your mouth moving, but you're okay.
I'm talking to somebody else. I'm listening to you and multitasking.
So you're good. Sorry, I just want to be inclusive. So the The other part of it is pretty much if you're in a business where folks can come in and out, like you're in like, let's say a customer service business, you got to wear a mask. So if you are someone you're the receptionist at a Edward Jones and people are coming in and out, yeah, you got to wear a mask. If you are building widgets out back and you're kind of by yourself or you're socially distanced and people aren't going to interact with you, you only have to wear a mask when you're interacting with folks, right? So it makes sense. If you're reading it with kind of an open mind, it's supposed to make sense. Like if you're in a position where you can either spread or get this disease around folks, you should wear a mask so that you don't do that. And just
now,
go ahead.
Sorry, I can't see anybody, but I do have a quick question because it's a challenge I have encountered this week since I do work with the public. This is Janelle, by the way. Yeah, so I have had 3 customers that I can think of. Everybody knows what the rule is, that they've walked into my place of business. We have signs posted that don't have a mask on. And I'm trying to figure out how to navigate not alienating and losing the clients. And I have offered them a mask, presuming that maybe they are unaware of the policy, didn't see my sign, or maybe just forgot theirs. And they have declined the mask. And it presents a little bit of a challenge for me because I don't want to create some of these scenarios that I'm seeing on the internet. So I continue to wear mine. I've allowed them to come back in my treatment area, which is, private. And every single one of these people, of course, once they're in my treatment area, I get the diatribe about how it's a hoax and fake and they're ridiculous and they don't really block anything. And I've sort of politely explained to them that, I believe in this and that I think that this is the only way that I'm going to be able to keep my business open. And I would appreciate at their next visit that they do choose to wear that, and I will be providing one for them. But has anybody encountered this, and how are they navigating that? Because I really can't afford to lose income and clients over this, but I'm trying to express as strongly as possible that it really needs to be done. So can I get some input on that?
That's a good question. It'd be interesting if we got anybody who's encountered that. And just so everyone knows, we can't, as you guys know, we can't ask, do you have a disability, right?
Right. I do know that as a person with a disability.
Right. And so it's one of those where like, you want to give folks the benefit of the doubt where like, oh, okay, there's probably some reason that's none of my business why you probably have an exception. But it must be frustrating and take people up back, in your business, and you learn that their exception is not an exception in the ordinance. It's not a actual physical exception. It's that
limitation. Yeah.
Limitation. Yeah, exactly. So have folks encountered that, and what are we? What's the success and fail comments on it?
We have a COVID policy, and this has been in place since May. Nothing has changed for us. So when our clients come, they schedule their appointment and we call to confirm and all of that. And we just make sure that we tell them every time we communicate with them, you will be required to wear a mask. If you're showing any symptoms, please stay home. If we see that you are showing symptoms, you will be subject to a temperature check. And of course, we will potentially ask you to go home if it's an unsafe environment. We haven't had anybody, we also provide masks. We don't want that to be a barrier as to why that they weren't coming. When Amber, thank you, has provided those for us. So, we haven't had anybody actually push back to putting it on per se, but we just make it very clear that you are required to wear a mask when you come here. And we have signs outside. We actually have like 4 signs. We have like a big stop sign before you even get to our door that says stop, read this. And then when you get to the door, it's like stop. If you don't have a mask, let us hand you a mask before you come in. And if you have one, then of course you're ready to come in. We actually have found that here recently, majority of our clients coming in already had their mask ready to go. We haven't had to hand out very many.
Yeah, and we have all that signage as well. We do have a virtual receptionist terminal. So clients are either required to check in from their vehicle right now, or which that's in my confirmation email, or our virtual. There's 5 independent people here, so some are requiring that they continue to use our virtual receptionist. My confirmation information is asking that they please just text me from their vehicle. And some are doing that, and some are just coming right in like they have in the past. So I'm just trying to get a little bit of feedback. And so I thought just taking the time to educate those people one-on-one that on their next visit, they will be required. And I guess that they're just going to have to choose whether they come back or not. But, considering that I see 60 plus people a week, 3 is a pretty low number, but I would prefer to not anyone, if possible, but I just wanted some feedback on that.
So another trend that we got to somewhat watch out for is that a spike in these COVID cases, particularly not so much hospitalizations, but definitely positives, are coming from young folks. They're coming from folks who are going out to bars. I had on a call 10 folks were infected through a hookah bar. Like, can you like they're going around sharing hookah with each other right now? Like, oh, come on, guys. Like, don't get me wrong, like I used to be in my 20s as well, but one of the problems is that's an age when you're really social, right? Like, and you're out and you're about, and you kind of feel invincible, because you kind of are. Like, when like I get sore if I go to bed the wrong way. Like, that shows like you get old, right? But when you're 20, you really are like better at handling this virus. However, when you're asymptomatic, or even if you have the symptoms, but because you're younger, you're fighting it off, you're out and about passing this on. So and I think it's kind of an important tidbit where some of your clientele might be younger folks, right? Like people who are out and about more, might be just of those behaviors that we really, I think, kind of took for granted before the virus. Those might be the type that feel more confident being out at the bars and so on, catching it and don't know it. So we want to also keep that in mind, that this isn't, I think a lot of focus on the virus has been at retirement homes and folks who are older, and that tends to be the folks who are hospitalized, but younger folks are actually becoming more the carrier right now, and they're infecting grandma, or and that's why I think it has to be. And I think what you said, we have to educate where it isn't you wear a mask to protect you. Like, you want to go get drunk and have a really bad weekend because you got sick, like, okay, you have the right to do that. You don't have the right to do that and drive, because other folks on the road have the right to get to and from places safely, right? Like, you don't have the right to go potentially hurt other people. That's really the logic behind this, where it's not that you're just protecting yourself or choosing not to protect yourself. It's that there are actual victims if you spread this disease, which without knowing it. So I think that education is important. But good questions. Businesses, by the way, I asked some questions about the fine structure. If you are getting fined for this, like, it's probably because you are trying to get yourself fined. Like, you are now like on this mission to be the anti-mask person, because we have so many different levels of due process before you are convicted, and once you're convicted, then you get a fine. So just want to also throw that out there, that we do have a structure in place to actually implement this, but our goal is to educate, and it's kind of I think on all of us to help that. We all have people in our lives who, for one reason or another, whether it's partisanship or rather it's like, this is a big shock to our society, so they choose not to believe it. They choose to believe the information and downplay it, and that's part of maybe their own mental protection. I think it's incumbent on all of us to help pass out and distribute that good information to our clients and also to other folks. Other questions about, or other statements about, or concerns really, the implementation of this. This is until August 11th, by the way, at which we'll reevaluate.
Mayor, so just a quick question for clarification, because just yesterday I went into a restaurant over lunch, and I noticed that, the server and the restaurant owner, they didn't have masks on. And so I asked them if they were aware that, they should have masks on. And they said something about some guidance about while they were in their space, they didn't have to, something that didn't make much sense. And so I'm just wondering, for clarification, the exemptions do not include those kinds of entities, right? A restaurant where someone's serving food or handling food, that sort of thing.
So in particular, if you are interacting with folks, you have to wear a mask. So like I said, there's a lot of misguidance. I'll tell you, I won't take much time on this, but we had the governor say, yes, you have to do it, but there's no enforcement. Days later, we had the county say, no, you don't have to do it, and no, there's no enforcement. And then the next day, the city said, yes, you have to do it, and yes, there's enforcement. So there's a lot of, depending on, what day you saw the news, there's a lot of misinformation. The fact is, though, that I was at a restaurant, and I don't go out much anymore, but I was at a restaurant a couple of days ago at the Locksburg outdoors at a lunch, and the owner came out and thanked me because now they were having problems trying to get their employees to do it. And people coming in to do it, and now they can kind of blame us, right? They could be like, hey, we also hate this, but that stupid mayor made us all do this, which gives them kind of that, and to be honest, that's the feedback I'm getting. We're like, hey, I really wanted to wear a mask. I felt like I was making a political statement by doing it. So I felt silly doing it. I didn't want to kind of step out, but now that you've made us do it, I'm secretly happy, even though they might not be admitting that, and save their businesses. Now they get to enforce it without getting, I think, pushback. So, no, we got to do, like I said, with the business that you just referred to, it's on us, I think, to get that education out there. But also, the goal, I understand the confusion. I think there are some folks who are just full stop, no, this is too much government for me. But then there's other folks who just might assume that there's an exception for them in there. And I don't think there is. Also, the county's order came out afterwards, right? These guys. So afterwards, and they did it very artfully, where instead of voting for something, they now have to opt out of it. Where the MINS, the county doctor, actually implemented the countywide mask order. It is unenforceable. They actually wrote that in their order, which we will not enforce this, but it's still required. And they have a limit on 45 gatherings of 45 people or more is not allowed. Which, it's interesting because on Tuesday we had a tell a car show. I love this car show, by the way, and I love the guy who's running it. And I can't let you bring 20,000 people into downtown, when guys, come on, give me some room here. But yeah, so we have some events where folks, I think, really want to get back to normal, don't quite fully understand the risk of this thing. Luckily, the county came in and their stuff will stop at August 9th. And Dr. Menz is the one who implemented it, which means that it could be overturned by an act of the commission, but that's a higher bar. At that point, you're literally voting against your hired medical professional, which I guess is different than voting for what they want. So anyways, there's some confusion with those two. And anyway, sorry, I was getting a call. So, but moving forward, I think that we got to do what we can to actually implement it. And keep in mind, we're not going to have 100% of folks following this. And I think there's some stat about like if we at least have 50%, that helps us this much. Like there's actually this benefit to folks doing it, who, more folks doing it is going to make us safer. So I don't want to, and I do this all the time, but I want to caution folks with this, where like it's super like on Facebook, I'll get like a bunch of positive stuff, and then I'll get like one or two negative stuff, and that's like what sticks with me, right? Like I'm like, oh my god, like I got to convince this person that I'm doing a good job. So, but you could have all this compliance, and then like the 1 to 2 folks who aren't, like was mentioned, who's in the business and they refuse to wear a mask. That's the one that sticks out, right? So just keep in mind that's a bit of a psychology thing, and that hopefully, moving forward, the folks who are following the science on this, that will be enough to start to curve these numbers downward. So let's jump into the agenda. If there's no questions or anything about the mask order. Yes, Amber.
I know this isn't on the agenda, but this would be really helpful to know, because the numbers are spiking, what is it as employers, if we have an employee or somebody who gets COVID, what's the act that the Family Cares Act, what is, as an employer, what are we supposed to do? Do we pay them while they're at home? That there's a lot of confusion about that. And
Yeah.
I think that the reason there hasn't been a whole lot of information about that one coming out is because I think employers don't want it to backfire on them, where everybody comes out and says, hey, I'm going to stay home for 14 days and you're going to pay me for it. So that would be really helpful if we could have a little bit more information or, guidance on, what does that look like? What are we responsible for as the employer? Because I don't think that one, we've talked so much about the PPP and how we get that, and a PEPE, all of that information. But what's, now moving forward, how are we going to deal with, our employees? I mean, I know it's up to us, but I also think that there's some of that act that I don't think there's quite a whole lot of consistency with that either.
And we should talk about that, and maybe put that to the agenda for, so we have some time to also kind of go back and research a little
That's
more.
fine.
I
Yep.
will tell you that I got some text messages about a business, third-party text messages, where a woman who works with children thinks she might have COVID and needs to get tested. And, it's not easy. And when I get into the testing sites, it's not easy nor fast to get tested. I've had 3 COVID tests, and like and I'm the mayor, right? You would think I would have this super secret way to get the COVID test, because I'm in these meetings all the time and I know the system. Like I have to call 211, wait for them to call me back, go through the drive-through, wait like a week later to get my results, and then they're like, hey, a week ago you did not have COVID, which, oh good, and since then I've been around other folks. So the, even though you're careful, but my response, and this is an aggressive response, and I shouldn't be like this, and I should be better, and okay, I'll get lectured later for this, was tell the employee to ask the employer if they want to be on the front page of the Eagle, because they were threatening to fire her if she stayed home and got a test and waited for the results. They were like, we're not going to excuse that. If you can't come to work, we'll fire you. And it was one of those, like, she had like a fever, like she actually had, what the symptoms are, and the testing's free if you go through the county. So it's not beholden on you guys as business owners, I think, to have to pay for the testing. And I guess if you pay for them to be off, that's really up to you. Legally, but the fact is, like, I think people are going to get into trouble if they try to force their employees to come in with COVID and not follow the advice. And there's some, I think some 211, and when it says call 211, they now aren't giving out tests to everyone who calls. They had to scale that back because they got overwhelmed. So you have to have a list. They go through a list of symptoms, and if you have 1 to 3 or 2 of those symptoms, whatever it is, they recommend you get a test, and that should give, I think, a level of caution, right? Like, well, they recommend I get a test based off the symptoms I have. Like that should, in my opinion, should kind of be enough for employers to be like, yeah, okay, why don't you get a test, get the results, or quarantine for 14 days. Because I think you guys are also going to run into this, like, you can't force me to get a test. Like, okay, well, you got to take 2 weeks off then in quarantine. And if you get sick, we'll know. So I think that there's going to be some of that where, you're going to have this kind of tussle, I think, where, because this isn't like a normal sick day. And you want people to err on the side of being cautious, but I think that's going to put you in an interesting spot. Joey, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I think there's still some confusion around, let's say in an office environment or any work environment where you're with other people and the employer discovers or finds out that an employee has COVID. What's the rules or requirements on notifying everybody else at the office or business?
Go ahead.
Without violating HIPAA.
Right.
Right. So the KDHE, I think I said that right. Definition of contact tracing, or what? So contact tracing is pretty much like if I was around you guys, then and we're all like face to face for this meeting within 6 feet of each other, and I turned out to be positive. KDHE and myself need to reach out to each of you and say, by the way, I have COVID and we were all hanging out together and you should go get tested for COVID. But if you are not within 6 feet of someone for 10 minutes or more, you technically don't qualify for contact tracing. So if your office is spread out enough, you might not qualify for that. However, we do want to encourage people to go that extra step and to tell folks anyways, right? So on my Council on Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights, we had a member come in who tested positive for COVID, was social distance the whole time, wore a mask, like really the chances of him infecting someone else was very low. However, he went above and beyond by contacting me. And that also allowed me to go kind of above and beyond, although it's scary to hear that you were in a room with someone who had COVID. You deserve to know that. So, and the Eagle picked it up and wrote a story about it. And I tried to make my comments around the theme that, like, we should be encouraging people to come forward if they have COVID. There's nothing to be ashamed of if you catch the cold, right? Or the flu. Like, if you catch COVID, it's more contagious than all that. You should not be ashamed to say, oh yeah, man, I got it. So, and kind of go that extra step, like beyond contact tracing. Contact tracing, I think, is the minimum though, which is you're within 6 feet of someone for 10 minutes or more. Then you need to tell that person, and that person needs to get tested. But we should probably, being good folks in good practice, probably expand that a little more to folks that we're just kind of around. So, Kara, you got your hand up?
Yeah, so I'm sorry to keep talking on this topic, but I just wanted to kind of back with that. So I actually had an instance last week or the week prior where, potentially close to somebody who had COVID. And the issue that I ran into is that I couldn't go get tested because Sedgwick County put in that asymptomatic suspension currently. So I called my doctor's office and I actually had an appointment for my son that day. And I was like, hey, here's the situation. And they were like, sorry, you can't come in. And I was like, hey, well, can I get tested? Nope, sorry, you got to wait 2 weeks because you don't have any symptoms. So if you start to show symptoms over the next 2 weeks, then obviously you can go get tested. But until then, we recommend that you just stay home.
Right.
And I was like,
put your life on hold.
Yeah. So and thankfully with my job, I'm able to work from home, but that put all of us kind of at hold of, do I have it? Who do I need to tell? Like, how far out does this need to go? Mm-hmm. And then also just to follow up with Amber, I did just send out employees' rights from the Federal Labor Department with COVID, just to kind of have for reference as well.
Good. Yeah, the CDC is going to be a really good resource for these type of questions too. And the goal is, of course, just like you guys know with all business stuff, have something you can cite, right? Like just where we did this standard, where like if you can pretty much cite the CDC, you can pretty much cite the state. I think it gives you an extra layer of protection than just like using like your own judgment on stuff, or even cite a legal opinion that your lawyer gave you on how to deal with certain situations. And that's one of the issues we've got to work on as a state, is rapid testing. That needs to be part of the plan if we're going to start opening schools, if we're going to start getting to where we need to be. The fact is, it's here. We need rapid testing so that folks can go get. Let's say we're going to have this meeting and in person, and wouldn't it be nice if all of us could go get tested yesterday, come back like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine, and then come in to the meeting and be able to do stuff like that. So I think that's going to be really important. But you're right. Economically, we need to be cautious, and we need to make sure that people can get the test and get back to work. Not everyone has the luxury of the type of jobs we have where you can do it at home. Like, my dad cannot build houses from his house. Like, he can't do that on Zoom. And there's lots of folks like that who, they can't just go. We saw in a meat packing plants where COVID kind of exploded. People were taking Tylenol so they can get past the temperature checker because they had to work. They had to work. The option wasn't there just to stay home. Like, there was no mechanism to keep them above water. So let's get a little bit to the agenda, and we can go through these. I think kind of quick. So we did talk a lot about the new order. I just want to. I don't know if Dee sent these to you, but the community-wide testing sites. I think it's something that business owners like yourselves are going to need to know about. We all know about 211. 211 is the Cedric County. It hooks you up with Cedric County testing. Excuse me. So Via Christi also has a drive-through site, and so does the VA Medical Center. And MedExpress Urgent Care has a drive-through and their own number. So does Express Wellness Urgent Care. That's in Andover. So the guy who I spoke to, who was, I think, the owner or the manager of Locksburg, he was sending his employees to Andover because I guess they had a quicker turnaround. So that might be a bit of a interesting, tidbit for folks like Kara, who,
Don't tell everybody that.
The what? Now you all know.
Everybody that, and everybody will come to Andover's.
I know. That's the secret. The people need to be watching these YouTubes because you never know when the good information is going to come out. Also, Cheney at the Hutchinson Clinic walk-in care, and Cheney has a testing. Walmart mobile drive-through in El Dorado apparently has drive-through testing. Convenient Care in Newton has testing, and the referral is not required for that one. And Susan B. Anthony Memorial Hospital in El Dorado also has testing. I think a referral is required. So this document, I don't know if you guys all got it, but if not, I'll ask you to send it out. But it's Walmart in El Dorado, another one, Mercy Hospital in Moundridge, Kansas. You are required to have an appointment and referral. But anyways, this is a good list of places where you can go without a referral. So probably just show up and get tested. I think that we have been pushing the 211 because we've told to, where everyone can get tested. We want more people getting tested, and then they didn't have the resources to actually pull that off, so we had to kind of pull back. Getting that information out of where the testing sites are, I think is important, because just like Kara, I called my doctor after being exposed to the person who is on our other council and said, do you do testing? Can I come in? And they told me no. They pretty much go through 211 just like everyone else. So I think that trying to figure out the different testing sites is going to be important. All right. Next on the agenda, PPE supplies. Felicia, I think you were going to look into see if there was alternative sources or alternative products we could be using. Did you get any groundbreaking results?
I am waiting to get, I think I may have found something, but I've asked to get some information about it to make sure it's all EPA and FDA approved, all of that, because especially for our industries, you know, it's very specific about what we need to use.
Yeah.
I know that at least with us and most of the other salon and barbershop owners that I know, we are still having major difficulty finding things as simple as Lysol.
Yeah, and I've learned beyond this group that some people are holding this stuff like secret. You know, because I've spoken about this stuff before, and like, yeah, people are finding like stashes and then not telling anyone. So, I mean, thank you, you free market thinkers, but also let's make sure that we expose some of the secrets to help everyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of us that, you know, we're on our last little bit between Lysol and hand sanitizer that doesn't either burn or smell so bad that your customers are like, holy God, what am I putting on my hands? And especially with the different ones that have been recalled, people are concerned about that because, you know, nobody wants to get burned from hand sanitizer that's been made inappropriately.
Reminds me when I was a kid that like we discovered that you can get paint on your hand and use gasoline to like wash the paint off, but then like the gasoline never comes off. So yeah, got to find that balance, right? All right, so I'll put down here that we're still looking for further study needed on this, particularly with some of the stuff you've researched to see how effective it is compared to the alternative. So we'll get that next time as well.
Okay.
Wayne, do you want to talk about the Chamber's new focus group on healthy business practices?
I don't have any notes to share at the moment, but I'll be sure to send something out, if not later today, in the next few days from that group. I know they're meeting once a week, and I just don't have the notes from their most recent meeting this week. So I'll be sure to get that to you all very soon.
Excellent. Yeah, and also like what's interesting is if they started working on this a week ago, everything's changed, right? Like we're going from like reopening practices to like let's avoid another shutdown practices. So
right.
So yeah, I think that we'll probably get some better info if we hold off on that item too. Loan forgiveness workshop information. I think it's June 30th was the deadline, and July 2nd is the training with business contacts. Is everybody who was interested in signing up for that have that information? Good.
And actually, we just shared, I believe, either yesterday or the day before, I sent the group updates on the next few trainings, and I'll be sure to, I don't have those dates in front of me, but just want to confirm that you guys received that. Did everybody get those? Okay.
If you need it, let us know. We'll make sure we have the right contact info. Next item is consider placing a master list link to everything available on wichita.gov. We have been updating wichita.gov and doing what we can to create that as a continued, like, you know, one-stop shop. That's like the word of the year, right? Like, we want a one-stop shop for unemployment, and now for COVID, and later for you know, for I don't know, something else. Any information out there that you guys think should be on oh my God, people are calling me today. So there's like an anti-group on masking who's giving out my personal number, so I think I'm getting a lot of those calls, which is unfortunate. Actually, that was legit. So the master link, if there's anything else that needs to be up on that link, please let us know. And right now, I think Megan has been doing a pretty good job putting that stuff together, and not just, because as we spoke before, like the Chamber of Commerce has their stuff and it's awesome. Like their website looks great. And then you look at, you know, some of the other information is on like the county site, and it's just kind of spread out. So we're trying to consolidate that information, even if it's a link to the other groups that have like the major links. But if there's anything you guys see that needs to be on there more, please let me know and we'll make sure to update that. But we have gone forward with that. So share job vacancies with Dress for Success, Kara, with Workforce Alliance. How's Workforce Alliance treating you guys? Things working out?
Yeah, I mean, everything's good right now. We have seen a decrease in client participation right now. We are wondering if, obviously, it's due to COVID with the current increase or current spike. But we are also wondering if it has to do with evictions and utility shutoffs that started last month. So we are trying to get in touch with our ladies, kind of figure out where they're at in life right now to see what we can do to get them back involved and help them, get their life back up on their feet.
I'm wondering if do we know of any nonprofits or faith groups or any programs that, because we are going to see I think a high level of evictions. Do we know of any assistant programs out there that might be somewhat we can start talking about or try to locate and then maybe put resources up to help?
They're attached to my building.
Yeah, say what's next to you. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, they're attached to my building, Mayor. It's called Center of Hope.
Okay, Center of Hope's
They
probably.
do. They're the only ones they're the main ones in town that do rental assistance and utility assistance. And for them right now, they're doing phone calls. They're not doing any in-person meetings, but they are still, helping a lot of people with rental assistance and everything like that. And then I know that we've had some women in our program also that have received the Whipple.
Is it the what?
I thought it was called the Whipple. I could be wrong. Is it called the Whipple, Carol?
Did you guys name something after me?
Yeah, well, no, we didn't name it now. It's the assistance. Obviously, you don't know, but it's the other assistance that you can request. It goes through the city, and you can request funds one time due to COVID, and we had it paid for like $800 for one woman. If you can classify if the problem that you're having is due to COVID, whether it be rent, there's lots of programs out there for help with utilities. A lot of the utility companies are really helping with that, but that rent, the county has one, and I'm pretty sure it's called the Whipple.
Like my name, Whipple. Like I'm hearing that right?
Yes. I'm pretty positive that's what it's called. And you can get that one if you can show documentation that it is due to COVID. And we've had a few women that have gotten that. The funds take about 30 days to get, and they pay directly to the landlord. And then so does Center of Hope. They pay directly to the landlord. You can contact some of the Catholic churches around here. They have a St. Vincent de Paul committee in most Catholic churches, and it's based on the zip code, and you can get rental assistance there. There's also Open Door has their rental assistance, just to name a few.
Okay.
Now you have me wondering what that's called. And I will go get the actual name, but I'm pretty sure it's named after you. So hang.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it wouldn't shock me that they would name like a social service like program after like the one Democrat here, right? Where like, oh yeah, we're helping people. We'll call it the Whipple. That makes sense. But yeah, no one's told me that. I mean, which would be hilarious if they actually nickname some program. I don't know. Anyways, I've been.
I was correct. It is called that after. So it's by the county, and
it's by the county or the city.
I don't know. It's one of them. It's either the city or the county that has it, and it's called the Whipple. So they named it after the mayor.
Those funny bastards. Okay.
Just take it as a compliment.
Yeah,
and roll
absolutely.
with it. That's what I would do. Take it as a compliment and roll with it.
Okay. All right.
Turn it into good. Take it as a compliment.
No, but it's a good thing. It's
that's what I'm saying. It is helping people. It is helping people.
So anyway, That's
God
what it's
forbid they
called.
name like a super successful like economic development program after me. Instead, it's the like thing associated with like the worst pandemic like our country's seen in 100 years. Folks in like a desperate situation like need service, and they name that after me. Like, oh.
Hey, you're gonna
But
go down in
but
history.
it has made them smile. It has
I
helped
thought you.
them
I would have
smile.
thought you would have known.
There.
You guys would be shocked what they keep from me here. But all right, so I'm gonna look
I
into
believe
that.
that- I believe that is all of it.
All right. All right. Well, thanks for the update.
Yeah.
I can't wait to further research the details of these programs. Moving on to the next one, unemployment payments. So we saw some changes over with the, and I think we're on the last call when this happened, where changes with the unemployment system. Secretary Garcia did resign. Obviously, our system was not set up to handle, I think, like a 5,000% increase in folks looking for unemployment. Our federal government really didn't do much. I think help. They did send a stimulus check, but that was also kind of late. So I think that we really exposed some holes in our social safety net at the state level that I think folks thought would be there in such a situation, right? Like the last call I was on, they talked about pandemics. It was the county manager where like we didn't see trucks rolling into Wichita with supplies, right? Like we all kind of have this perspective, and maybe it's from media or television or whatever that we would have folks come in and help us, and then it didn't happen. We're on our own, and similar with the unemployment system where it just wasn't agile enough to adjust to the changes in its in the surrounding it. So it's unfortunate. It is going through some change. I haven't been able to get an update on what that looks like yet. So it's something I need to research a little more of. I have been getting less calls from folks, I think, trying to navigate the system, which means one of two things: either folks are going back to work, or the system's getting a little better or a little more balanced out. Hopefully they will have a plan if we see another shutdown or spike again. So that's going to be, I think that's going to be the next, that's going to be the next concern if we have another shutdown, of course. And just so folks know, right now we're doing everything we can to get kids back into school. Maybe Ann could talk to this a little bit if you have an update on what schools are doing to prepare to be versatile if COVID, because it's still a big issue in the fall.
Yeah, right now what they're looking at is just classroom spacing, obviously masks for the students and masks for staff. But it's, as we were saying earlier, it's going to be a matter of implementing it, because we're going to have a lot of parents who are vehemently against it, and that trickles down to the students. So trying to make sure that everybody is going along with what we have in place, because the districts are starting to put things in place, like here's how we're going to, what we're looking at, here's how we're going to implement, here's how we're going to make sure that we are on with what the cities and counties and states are requiring. But we're still going to have those people who are going to flat out refuse to do it for whatever reason. But we're trying to get plans in place right now. That's the big thing I can say. So okay. It's just a matter of it truly happening, And
just want to compliment our teachers. I don't think they got enough credit when schools were canceled last time, where the governor came out, and I'll tell you, I'm an open book, right? Where I have no filter, pretty much, is what people will say. I was on the phone with the chief of staff of the governor, who was wanting kids to stay in school, where like the last thing they wanted to do, and trying to encourage that message where like keeping kids in school is a good thing. And then like a few days later, she shut down the schools, I don't think people had a notice, because like I said, I only had a few days in between talking to the chief of staff to when it happened. I think that they realized the numbers were spiking. They realized they had to make the hard decision. They just did it. Without that notice, though, we saw teachers actually go online, like actually completely and teaching in class and teaching online are not, it's not a smooth transition. And they actually just completely stepped up to the plate and got it done. I do know 259 has been working on getting laptops for all the young folks who, and are preparing the curriculum to still be there if kids have to get out of school, if we have a shutdown, if we have an outbreak. And what that I think is looking like, and maybe Ann can let me know if it's not, is utilizing, integrating the technology into the everyday lesson plans. And when I sub-teach, usually you got folks who everything's on their Google Drive, like Teams, everything's all broken up, it's on your Google Drive, and the kids log in and they can just get to their assignments, and the lecture it complements like the work in the Google Drive. And I think they're going to try to utilize more of that type of technology where, all right, like if you're not in school, you can still log into your Google Drive and still do the work at home. So very innovative. And I think the city, we're trying to help out with getting hotspots for connectivity, because we have also people who need to get their work done, but they don't have reliable internet. So, Anna, is there anything that you need to clean up in that statement I just made? Or
well, what we down in 261, we are, especially at campus high school, but all over, we are a Google district now. So we've been implementing Google Drive classrooms, Google Classrooms, and Teams. We already have our different departments doing that. And what will happen in the classroom is we will have the kids, okay, let's get out the Chromebooks, they'll get in, they'll log in, everything that they have. Sure, we'll still do our instruction, we'll put up stuff on the marker board and everything, but then they'll be on their laptops just doing the work from there. And it has worked in many ways. There are teachers who have done that. Now, in my case, I was more with the online learning and credit recovery, so I was already doing all computerized with that stuff. But my main concern is if we aren't able to truly do something like the Google Drive with everybody, there is that program that I worked with, which is Acellus, which is a strict online curriculum that's already set up it's a national curriculum. But how many instructors would be able to hurry up and get that certification, and then getting all the kids put in for everything? And that's where the problem lies right now. So we're trying to figure out how are we going to be back in the classroom? Are we going to be putting it online? If we're going to be back in the classroom, are we going to go like half of the students on one day, half the students on another day? Because we have to go in, do the temperature checks in the morning, make sure everybody's doing the social distance, everybody's safe and stuff. But then, of course, you're going to have those kids who have it, but they aren't going to tell because they don't want to be outed and embarrassed with it,
Right.
So
and also you're going to have
issue.
folks who, mom has to go to work, and, so kids have to go to school. So and that's going to be another interesting thing that we should probably think about moving forward. And I don't know how we can impact this, but as a young dad, like I'm in a position where I can't be fired, right? Like unless the voters vote me out. When I was a legislator, I used to bring my kids to work with my wife. When we had to work on the weekends, because people were playing games, and we're now working on the weekends, and my wife had a retreat planned. I would actually bring my kids to the floor at the State House, and they'd run amok. They were absolutely terrible. And it's like, this isn't my fault. This is your fault. And now you got to deal with my kids. And, and that was kind of my attitude with it. And I remember Representative Clayton, who's a good friend of mine. She was a Republican for a while. And just the year before I was elected mayor, she became a Democrat. She texted me and she said something about like, thanks for normalizing parenting. Because she also brought her kids. But I guess I never caught on to this, but it was different when women do it than when men do it, right? Like, and then she let me in on a whole like level of privilege I've been experiencing as like a dad, bringing my kids and stuff that she doesn't get to experience. So anyways, where I'm going with this is like, we as a culture we need to, with COVID coming up, there might be situations in which we somewhat have to normalize people bringing their kids to work, right? And we're gonna have to figure out how to do that, I think, where, because some
but
people
that
are
also
gonna be,
brings up a whole lot more challenges about
Right.
having children and ability in like office spaces and
Right.
I mean, I'm in the, I'm in 3 different schools next year with my children and trying to figure out I'm going to have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary school. So I will be in 3 schools next year. And, trying to figure out how we're going to navigate, if it's alternating days and, an online school and all of that. So it's going to be real interesting. I mean, I bring my kids to work with me here, but they got to stay in my office. If they go to the bathroom, they got to put their mask on. I mean, and if I were to allow other people to do that in the building, it would create a new element of challenge. I mean, almost everybody'd have to have their own office. By the way, on that rental assistance, it came out and it is the city of Wichita, by the way. I sent you the link. You made a comment about it, but they named it after you.
okay,
So
that's funny. Go ahead, Kara.
Oh, I was just gonna back off of that as well and just say that I think that, as we've been through this pandemic and we've been teleworking and telecommunicating, and, there's been a lot of employers who wouldn't allow their staff to do that. And this was a perfect opportunity for us to go out and prove that, we can be at home and we can still work, we can watch our kids and we can still work. I'm a big believer of working with your own schedule. I do not believe in a 9 to 5. Life does not work that way. I find myself most productive actually at 8 o'clock at night. I was doing work from 8 to 2 a.m. last night. That's when I find myself most productive. I'm different. Somebody might be more productive during that 9 to 5 time. But I think it's about working with our community, working with our staff, working with everybody, what's best for you so you're most productive, so that way we can get, the most efficient solution to whatever it is. But,
and that's what we might be talking about. And there's nothing I can do at the city level to bestow these changes on the businesses, right? And that's not what I'm suggesting. A lot of this will have to come, I think, from the community and for business leaders like yourselves, where that economic equation of, hey, we had 80 kids with a COVID outbreak in my elementary school. School's now closed. We got to go online, and I don't have a babysitter, so I'm going to be bringing in my kid to sit at the table and working on their laptop, or I can't come to work. That economic equation or I got to now work from home. What is, and I think that businesses and a type of work you do is going to kind of determine that, right? Some of us can work from home, some of us can't. But moving forward, we talked about previously in this council about trying to prepare folks for what if we, what are some of the better practices moving forward to try to help us out as small business owners. And I think that's one thing that should be kind of in the back of folks' minds when you're out there talking to community, community of other business folks, maybe asking, well, what's your plan if you have people our age who are, a lot of the folks who are working are in the same situation we are, right? We're kind of, I'm 30 something, I think 37 now. We're, I got little kids, and this is that age category of mid 20s to 50s is the majority of the workforce. Is usually that's when folks are working the most, and it's also when we're having kids. So how do you balance that when some of the traditional structures are going to be changing, such as dropping kids off at school? So just something I think we got to look into for next meeting. But with that, that's pretty much the agenda. I kept you guys here about 10 minutes longer than usual, which is kind of usual. Sorry about that. Or 10 minutes longer than we're scheduled. Any questions for now before we head on to our days? Cool. Oh, I forgot the minutes. Everyone's cool with the minutes? Any changes to the minutes that went out?
We're good.
Minutes approved. See no objection. All right. Cool. Well, let's keep let's keep thinking about as the situation changes with COVID. What are some stuff that we can utilize and make better? I really appreciate the information on the rental stuff. I might shoot a tweet out with that info. Oh, last thing I do want to say is that with our and this might actually be good for Kara as well, because I think she said a lot of her clients are facing some of these issues with. Is that a baby? Are you holding a baby? Oh, look. Hey, buddy. Okay. It was kind of bleeping out. Look at you just holding an arm. So where's the rest of them? Anyways, we at the city level are trying to encourage people who might be behind on their water bill to call and help us create a plan, right? Like, we don't want to shut off water. We did a non-shut off, but we also don't want folks to get too far behind. So pretty much, if you're someone who can work with us, we want to work with you. So that's kind of what we're throwing out there is we extended our non-shut-off order. That'll be expiring soon. But the goal is to work with folks to get through this, not to, obviously, we don't want to shut off water because we want the virus to go away and you need water to keep yourself clean. So, but that's one of the things moving forward is that we want to encourage folks who might be behind on their bills to call and acknowledge and set up some type of plan if you can't pay it all off at once to keep it going.
I think that's probably the better message is sure that, if you are getting behind on your bills, make sure you talk to the people that the electric bill, the water bill, your landlord. The number one thing that we encourage everybody to do is communication with those entities.
Right. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people kind of ignore the problem, right? Like, well, I can't pay it, so I have no one to, why would I call them just tell them bad news, right? So, but yeah, moving forward, I think we got to kind of change that behavior pattern so that
absolutely
the city can, okay, you can put a few dollars down, great, like we can help you with this. Because the last thing we want is people overwhelmed, and the very last thing we want is water being shut off. But that's go ahead.
When you tweet that, I'll share it.
Okay, excellent. All right, guys, I'll let you guys go. Any further questions or conversation? See none. All right, we'll take this online then. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.
All right, buddy.
Bye.